All good?
I'm good.
We're good?
Yeah, are you good?
I'm good. So John, have you watched those abandoned houses, like videos on YouTube? Have you seen them?
Of course.
Do you watch them like on the regular?
No, I mean, not on the regular, but
Oh.
I would say that I've probably seen a few of them.
I love like the abandoned celebrity mansions.
Okay.
Those are my favorite.
Who?
Like the walkthrough.
Anybody I know?
Oh yeah, like well now I'm gonna forget all their names, but like famous people. There's one of like Drake's old house or something.
Yeah.
It's like not that they leave it abandoned, but somebody buys it and just doesn't do anything with it.
Is it just the cachet of knowing that it was owned by a celebrity?
That's right. That's like how they get. It's the clickbait.
That's ridiculous.
But it's like they're so cool to watch because it's like they're these beautiful homes. Like
Yeah.
everything like was done to the nines, and then someone just let it decay. Like
You know what tends to happen? Okay, so the thing about a celebrity home is that buying a celebrity home or a home that was owned by somebody who's got or eccentricities, they've got
yeah,
very, very specific taste, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to take that home and they're going to completely butcher it sometimes to their own specific taste. They're going to put things in the wrong spot and somebody's going to come in and the place has little to no market value, right? It doesn't have any, it's got that cachet. If you're a fan of the celebrity, then you're
it's
going
like
to
the
say,
Christmas house
I
that
wanna
couldn't sell.
like, yeah, exactly. Like I'm going to look at this place and I'm going to say, I'm going to have to put several million or several $100,000, depending on the home,
Just changing the wall color.
just to get the kitchen back to where the kitchen's supposed to be, or just to get things where they're supposed to be. Like that's the problem with celebrity houses and these. Like I can't do
eccentric.
it.
They're so eccentric. It's like that. There's a Christmas one in the States, and they just Christmas threw up everywhere. And it's this huge mansion. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, but they just didn't want to get rid of. And then finally, they got rid of the Christmas decorations, and it was like it's old, like
Really?
right away.
Are like permanent Christmas decorations, like the place. Like what would it cost to kind
No,
of?
it was like a hoarder's Christmas mansion.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
it's really cool. I'll send you some pictures. But
What's worse though, a Christmas mansion or like a Halloween mansion?
worse or better?
Like, what would you rather live in? Would you rather live in permanent Christmas or permanent Halloween?
Halloween.
That's the question.
Yeah. What about you?
Do I have to pick one of those
You have
two?
to pick one.
Christmas or Halloween? I don't know. I'd probably go
Well,
Halloween.
what other one? Like Easter?
Valentine's Day.
Aw. Would you pick Valentine's
No.
Day? Oh, okay.
But I'm just trying to think of other, like, what is there? I don't know. Christmas, Easter, like Thanksgiving. Like a Thanksgiving house would be nice. It's all fall, turkey every day. Like something
Yeah,
like that.
you
That
have
would
to
be great.
Some kind of weird to have like a Thanksgiving house for sure.
Yeah. There's got to be a celebrity out there that likes Thanksgiving more than
Christmas
anybody else
is
does.
fine, but Thanksgiving, no.
Yeah. Okay. Christmas just seems, I don't know. I guess I've had good Christmases and bad Christmases, and I kind of feel like it's just, it's going to bring back some memories. But I want to see an old abandoned celebrity mansion. And I
Yeah.
feel like there's some of these, I feel like they're in Florida. Have you ever seen the Vanilla Ice Project? You know who I'm talking about? Vanilla Ice.
Did he like make a TV show or something?
Yes. So Vanilla Ice, AKA Rob Van Winkle, I think is now like a home flipper. So he's doing all these, so he's taking all these abandoned mansions. And so he started this, I think he started this during either one of the worst, like with the bad economic collapse or something. So he bought these places from the bank, sight unseen, and he's putting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into these houses and then selling them. And it's all taking place in Florida. And I'm sure some of them were owned by celebrities because you go in and you can see, like the sunken living rooms and like the ornate, all these things. And it's like, nobody's going to buy that place the way it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, whatever. He's Vanilla Ice. He can
Oh,
do
so
what he
like he
wants.
flips them. He makes them good.
He makes them nice. He makes them
Okay.
okay. They're a little bit over the edge. They're a little bit more than I would say, that the average person would kind of, but it's Vanilla Ice. It's a TV show. He's doing it for TV.
Yeah, right,
He's
right.
doing it
So
for
it
TV.
can't be normal.
No, this isn't a normal
No,
thing.
he's gonna go extra.
Big time.
I think the thing with these abandoned mansions, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Like so many. And I think it's just like, it's so sad, but people, they run into money and then they think that they can build these huge mansions and then they can't afford the upkeep or something happens.
Mhm.
And then they're just like left to decay. And just like, it's so sad because like they're
Yep.
so beautiful a lot of the times.
I feel like people just kind of overextend themselves as well when it comes
Yeah.
to the value of the property. So like if
Mhm.
they've run into some really serious economic issues, then it's possible that the property, it's not necessarily their fault, it's the economy. And so they're going to buy a place and put however many millions of dollars into it, and then the property itself is not worth it. So they're basically over leveraged and they're sort of upside down on the property. So they have to pay the bank more than the property is worth. So they just run away.
They just run away.
They just cut ties and run away.
Foreclose.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot too.
It happens with normal people, not just celebrities as well. But
it's not as interesting.
It's not as interesting if it was me. Like, just who's this guy? I don't know. Like, just some guy who's running away from his problems.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
When it's like, when it's Drake.
Yeah, then it's like, ooh, what's the tea?
Yeah, this is his old hood too.
Yeah. Oh, is it really?
Forest Hill kind of. Yeah, he's sort of in the neighborhood. I'm sure his people are still kind of in the neighborhood.
His peeps.
His people. Yeah, his old school people. A little bit further. Forest Hill's kind of is a Deer Park area. Forest Hill is kind of closer to Avenue and St. Clair Avenue, Lawrence. So just a little bit further south.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. We're in the hood. We're in the 6.
Oh, we're in the 6. Right
we're in the 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 6.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about that? Something about it.
Something about Drake or something about mansions?
I want a haunted mansion.
There's a lot of haunted mansions
Mm-hmm.
in our own city.
Yeah. Abandoned. I want an abandoned haunted mansion. Like, I want the shittiest mansion.
The place that you just like that's not even habitable.
That's right.
You just want to go like, okay.
Well, I want it because I want to flip it. Like that. That's like the beauty of it. Like that I find is like taking something that's just like nobody wants and like is terrible and just making something beautiful out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah.
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
I'd be in that. I'd invest in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Why
if
not?
we could get it for cheap too.
We'd have to get it for absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So if anybody wants to give me a haunted mansion.
Do you like that style though? Like, do you like Victorian? Do you like Gothic? Like, do you like those really old kind of styles, like from the mid, 1850s, 1860s, or Renaissance revival? Or do you like sort of modern, like mid-century modern? Like, I would say that I like mid-century modern, low, sleek, low furniture, that kind of thing.
No, I'm not a modern girl at all. No.
It's not like modern, but mid-century modern.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like everything 1950s.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No.
That's
I
fair.
like old school, but like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe like a mix.
Okay.
A mix of both.
I like big bungalows with big walkout basements. So, it's kind of like your main level, entertaining and everything on the main level. And then you've got this other kind of like, almost like a secret kind of area, right? That, you go to, you kind of do a lot of your living in this little, so you've got your wine room and you've got your bar and you've got your, extra bedroom and like maybe a bookcase, right? One of those bookcases with a little, like you pull out one of the books.
You have this dream.
I want that.
I
want that. I don't necessarily want.
Did you grow up in a house like that? Like, why do you have this so clear?
I don't know. Maybe I just watch a lot of real estate television.
Yeah.
And it's like mid-century. Everything is mid-century modern. We got this mid-century modern property. The flags and the Josh Altmans of our time is like everything mid-century modern, right? They just love it because it's so popular now in LA. It's just the most, for whatever reason, I don't know, it's just the most popular thing. But everybody loves mid-century
Everybody
modern.
wants it. Yeah, for like right now. And then in a week, it's something different.
That's right. Yeah. In a week, we're going to be looking at these old Gothic mansions that used to run up and down Jarvis Street, right?
Yeah. Even those like are too much for me. Like I can't, I don't know. I can't make up my mind maybe. Like the old style is too dark for me.
Yeah, I see that.
If you're living somewhere, you don't want it to be dark. Like you want it to be bright, but then like not the bright of like, the modern homes.
Well,
I don't know.
There's the modern. So the new modern is everything glass, right?
Yeah.
White box glass, right? That's the new modern. So, but the mid-century, everybody was kind of getting into a little bit more light. People wanted the light. What you're talking about, if you're talking about Gothic, Renaissance revival, Victorian, like all of those very kind of old school turn of the century types of places, the windows were small and dark. Because if you think about it, there was lead in the glass.
Yeah.
So if the lead in the glass, it's a green. Have you ever seen green glass in one of those old houses?
Yeah.
That's the leaded glass. And so it doesn't let a lot of light in, and they're also not very efficient. But those are darker than the mid-century moderns and the ones that we're kind of getting into. Yeah.
Yeah.
But glass was also very expensive. When they replace windows, there's an old building. I feel like it might be Canadian Blood Services or something like that now, but it's downtown. I think it's on College and University. And it's this old building, light colored brick. And you can, if you look, it's supposedly haunted. It's on the part of, I think it's part of the ghost tours, like the Toronto ghost tours.
Oh.
They should
Did
look
you
into
go
that.
on one?
I have. I've done one. And
Okay.
this was part of it actually.
Yeah.
And they're saying, so there's a couple of like, it looks like there's windows, but they're brick. They're just bricked over because it was so expensive to replace that glass. Glass was just so they just put bricks over it. That's the story. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's the story. But yes,
I
I've done a
believe
ghost tour. Very cool. I would absolutely do it again.
I
It's
know
a
everyone.
outdoor walking tour. You were like, no, I don't want to do an outdoor tour.
That sounds like something I would say.
And exactly like that too. I don't want to do it.
Well, no, you forgot like the vocal fry. Like I don't
want to.
I know everybody's telling me they're like, I can't believe you haven't gone on the ghost tour. Like you have to go on the ghost tour. And I'm like, it's cold outside.
You could do the summer. I would do the summer one. I would go down
Yeah.
to the distillery district. Yeah, you can probably do something like that. I'm pretty sure they
Is
run
there
them.
one in the distillery district? I didn't know.
I think some of them start there.
Oh,
I know
okay.
their offices used to
And
be
then you
there,
have
so
to
I think there are.
walk?
And then you just walk.
Oh,
It's not that far.
wow.
I did a ghost tour in London, England. It was gorgeous.
Oh,
was
I would
amazing.
love to do a ghost tour in London.
Followed Jack
England.
the Ripper around. Yeah, London. We followed it was the Jack the Ripper tour. So we saw where he supposedly ripped.
Ripped people.
He did his ripping.
He ripped all the women.
Where Jack did his ripping. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of ripping, do you have something? No, we should cut that part out. Anyways, how do we segue into that?
So, speaking of ripping, speaking of
Yes.
murders,
Okay, there we go.
speaking of
Mhm.
houses,
Uh-huh.
I feel like we should talk about one of the most interesting, most beautiful, one of the most famous, and also maybe one of the least kind of understood properties in the city, in Toronto. If you're listening from somewhere other than the Greater Toronto area, there's a street called Jarvis Street that runs north-south. It's kind of sort of on the east end of downtown Toronto. And a lot of the properties that were on Jarvis Street at one point or another used to be these gigantic, for the time anyway, super gorgeous, elaborate, ornate mansions. It was known as Millionaire's Row.
Mhm.
And there's a couple that are still standing. And one of them is called
The Keg Mansion,
the Keg Mansion.
also known as the Massey Mansion.
The Massey Mansion, Euclid Hall. It had so many names over
So
the
many
years.
names.
And it was, so and again, if you're not familiar with the Keg is a steakhouse. Because I know we're going to have people that are watching and listening from all over the place.
Oh, did you want to talk about the trigger warning though?
I do want to mention
Okay.
one thing before we get into this. Just a trigger warning, just so that everybody's aware. There is a suicide in the story. And if you are triggered by any of those kinds of things, please just kind of heed that as a warning. And of course, I'm going to give you a phone number because of the fact that we're going to mention this. It's not a huge part of the story, but it is going to be mentioned. And I really just want to make sure that everybody's aware. Canada Suicide Prevention Service, 24/7, 365 days a year. Their phone number is 833-456-4566. And help is available 24/7. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to quickly mention that before we get on with our story.
That's so great that you wanted to do the trigger warning, especially right now. Like it's such a tough time for people, and I know that some things that we talk about, like it's okay for us, but
Yeah.
some people are.
Well, we go into, you and I working in real estate, we go into houses quite often, and sometimes really bad things have happened in these houses.
Yeah.
Sometimes our buyers are aware and sometimes they're not aware. But unfortunately, sometimes we are tasked with selling a property where something really horrible has happened. And that's one of the reasons that, of course, that the house is for sale. The buyer will ask, what happened? Why is the price so low? Or why is it on the market? Why are they selling? Well, sometimes we have to explain that. And for us, it's just part of our job. But for the people, the victims, the families, it's quite difficult for them to accept, especially in some cases. There was I don't want to mention it too. I don't want to dwell on it, but there was a family in Oshawa, and it wasn't too long ago. The property was leveled, it was demolished, and they're now building a new house on the site. But that was the same kind of area. So I don't know. It's good to mention. It's good to talk about, but
Yeah. Sometimes you have to kind of like tread lightly on those kinds of things because there's so
Yeah.
many things in Durham too that have happened, and people are like, "Are you going to talk about this? Are you going to talk about that?" And I'm like, "Well, you know what? I think I want something that's a little bit more separate, or a little
Yeah.
bit older so
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
like people had time to process it. It's not like a tragedy that happened like yesterday and let's all.
And here we are
Here we
glorifying it and
are.
making,
Yeah.
making light of it or anything like that. We're certainly not doing that. We're bringing your attention to certain things. We like to tell
Exactly.
the stories. We like to get people's kind of minds working a little bit and give you something to listen to and give you something to watch.
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking about
And
something.
ghosts.
And ghosts. Who doesn't love,
That's
a
right.
ghost?
Everybody loves a ghost story.
Exactly. I've got a couple myself, and we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so today, as John said, we're going to be talking about the Keg Mansion in Toronto, also known as the Massey Mansion. It was built in 1868 by Arthur McMaster, who is the nephew of William McMaster, who founded McMaster University.
Yeah.
He passed away in the early 1880s, and the home was purchased by Hart Massey, the very successful agricultural equipment manufacturer. I'm surprised that I actually said that in one breath because
It was great.
that was I'm going to trip up on that one. But the Massey family is actually so interesting. I know like a little bit about the family, but I did some research into how they started, and it's so mind blowing. They came from nothing,
Mhm.
literally nothing, and then they moved up to aristocrats by a couple of generations. And
Yeah. Farm equipment.
really
if they're
cool,
if you
yeah.
think about farm equipment now, if you think about farm equipment and you think about the people and the businesses that sell farm equipment, okay, there's a few. You've got your big, farm equipment dealers and things like that
Mhm.
in the area. And as your Durham region, kind of the greater Toronto area, there's a lot of farming. But farm equipment now is kind of there's a few places that sell it. It's not that big a deal. But back in these days, that's all there was.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that's all there was, but that's that was it. That
The
was
biggest.
It was the biggest thing. So
Yeah.
for somebody in farm equipment was you're an aristocrat. You're whining and dining, right? You're
That's
spending the money.
right.
You're making bank.
Making bank from farmers to making bank. Yeah, it was cool. They started just as farmers. They rented or they bought a piece of land, and then I have to do more research so that I can talk about it more educated. But they sold one. They sold the business to another person so that they could get the money to open another one, and then they had patents on the farm equipment, and they started growing from there. And it's so cool. And actually, there's so many places that the Massey family built too that are still relevant today, like Massey Hall. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Massey Hall. Massey Hall has been just recently, I haven't been in there yet. But it's just recently been renovated, and it was grand opening. We were talking about this on the way down here. We're talking about how Gordon Lightfoot christened it. He was the first after the big opening. If you're familiar with Massey Hall, it had this big fire escape on the front on Shooter Street, just on the east side of Yonge Street, downtown Toronto. So this big fire thing, and they've gotten rid of that, and they've opened up all the stained glass. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to see it. But let's keep on carrying on the Massey family's legacy.
Do you have a story about I thought you had a story about that.
Do you want to? Are you sure you want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
It's funny that we're talking about the Masseys because a number of years ago, I was working for a radio station in downtown Toronto, and we were doing promotional stuff, and I was there. I don't know what band was playing, but it was the radio station that I worked for presented. We were the presenting sponsor, I guess, of the show. And I was upstairs by myself in the balcony. The band was rehearsing on stage. I was upstairs in the balcony, and I was completely by myself. Nobody was there. I had to ask security to let me up there. They had to unlock the balcony door, so I knew nobody was there. I was putting up a banner, and I think I was maybe just sort of, watching the band kind of perform. And I think I had to ask somebody. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure I needed to ask somebody if I could put a banner at that particular spot. Was that okay? Is this not good? Is this a good spot or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw somebody just kind of out of my peripheral vision walking down the hallway because it was the balcony, there was a door, and there was a hallway. So I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure I went to go and look and there was nobody there. So there was somebody. I definitely saw a person, 100% positive it was a person, usher, just somebody with a jacket on. And I went to say oh, excuse me, is it okay if I put something there? Is it okay can you let me into this place, or can you let me into that place? And there was absolutely nobody there. Not even a sign of somebody, not even a door closing, not even, anything. And it was just a cool breeze, nobody there, nothing, no doors open. And that happened at Massey Hall. I don't know how long ago, 15, 12, maybe I want to say maybe 10 to 12 years ago.
I wonder if anything, like the paranormal stuff is like aggravated by the renovations and stuff that they're doing. Like, I wonder
Oh,
if
that's
that's going to have an impact. Maybe it's going to be more haunted.
my sister works there. I'm going to have to ask her.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if the ghosts are still there. I think her and I have had that conversation before. So I'm going to
Yeah.
see if the ghosts, see if she knows anything. Cause
That's what some of the paranormal investigators say. They're like, if you move around the house or like if you change something,
yes,
the spirits get angry.
they don't like it.
They don't
Exactly.
like it.
That's the thing. And so it's funny that we're talking about the Massey family and my own little experience. I mean, maybe that was a Massey family friend. I don't know. Somebody that was, maybe that it's not just that place. Like maybe the Massey family
Yeah.
has more, there's more going on than we even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. So there's lots of, getting chills. You getting, is it cold in here? Okay.
I love all the creepy stuff. So just like feed it to me. I love all the creepy stuff.
I'm sitting here in like a black hoodie and I'm getting these chills right now too. Like, I don't know what's happening. All right.
Okay. So back to our story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might recognize their name from Massey Hall, Massey College, and the Hart House too, which is named after the son. Their family was pretty big into arts and philanthropy, which is why their name is still really relevant today. After Hart's death, his daughter Lillian took over the estate and named the home Euclid Hall. I think it's because they had some kind of like plant nursery built. She liked flowers or something.
Could be.
Euclid Hall. Yeah.
That's about right.
She just wanted it more pretty, I guess.
Is that a flower? What's a Euclid?
Yeah, it's a flower.
Is it?
I think.
Oh. Orchid? Euclid? I don't know.
We'll Google it later. Something like that. So Hart's grandsons, Vincent and Raymond, also rose to a prominent social status. Vincent became the Governor General of Canada in 1952, and Raymond became an Oscar-nominated actor. I think it was for Lincoln. He played like Abraham Lincoln or something.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a big thing because he was a Canadian playing like an
American president.
Yeah, but then once they saw him, they were like, okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. We'll let it go. We'll let it slide.
Was he that bad?
Or no, it was that good.
Oh.
Yeah, but they're like, okay, we'll let it slide.
I was like, he's that bad. Nobody's going to see this movie anyway.
They'll come for him. Like, yeah. After Lillian's death, the house was entrusted to the University of Toronto, and it later served as a veterans hospital, an art gallery, and a radio station. And then in 1976, it became home to the Keg restaurant, and it was renamed the Keg Mansion. Yeah.
You've eaten there? Have you eaten there?
I've eaten there. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm going to tell you my experience first, and
Okay.
then I know yours is like way more interesting than mine, and then so we'll get into that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I like no ghosts, no weird feelings, nothing.
No, nothing.
No, but like I ate there, and I kind of like I felt I was really young at the time, and it was like a really fancy place. So I was kind of like I felt kind of off, like asking the server, and I was like, "So, do you think there's ghosts here?" He's like, "Well, I haven't seen anything, but apparently
Mhm.
the women's washroom is haunted." Women say that. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I have this weird thing about like public bathrooms, so I'm like, I'm not going. Even if it's haunted, like I'm not going in there.
I'll just hold it.
I'll
go
just
somewhere.
hold it. Yeah.
That's funny. It's like a lot of the stories that I was reading about that focus on the women's washroom, and then if there's an upstairs one or a downstairs one, it's sort of been. It seems to be it seems to be the kind of the thing. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening around that women's wash. So I went into and when I was there, I went into the men's room, and I don't think I saw anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was like, there was noise. It was just like, yeah, exactly, just a trough, like at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. I don't know if I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything. I don't remember hearing anything. I kind of was like, I really wanted to sort of see and really feel like, because I knew that there were stories, but this was years ago. But the tragic, a lot of it started. So obviously it doesn't sound like it's just, it was owned by the Massey. It was a big mansion and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that really kind of triggered all of this, like all of the ghost sightings, was in 1915 when Lillian Massey passed away in the home. And she, I don't know what the cause of her death was, but it was, it's been around for 155 years right now. But I mean, so Lillian Massey died in 1915. She had a maid, and one of the maids, I guess, was very devoted to Lillian. And this, I think Lillian was the daughter, if I'm not mistaken. And she was the one who ran the house or lived in the house and named it Euclid, right? So
Yeah.
So I think the
Lillian's
father was gone, Hart was gone, and so Lillian was there, and so there was this maid that was very devoted to her. And after Lillian died in 1915, she took the
Apparently, she
death.
was a boss ass bitch, Lillian.
No kidding.
She ran everything, apparently, which is like unheard of in time.
But that doesn't make any, that, I don't doubt that, but that doesn't make any sense because what I was going to say is that the maid killed herself.
Yeah.
The maid killed herself after she died. She couldn't take it. She couldn't take the fact that Lillian wasn't there. It took her very, very hard.
You can be a boss ass bitch and people still miss you.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Maybe she just figured like, that was it. That's it for me. So
Aw.
some reports say that it happened in one of the rooms.
Mhm.
But it looked apparent that it was a hanging, and self-inflicted. And some
I think
suggest
it was
that
in
it
the
was,
staircase.
other people suggested, I was just going to say that other people suggested that it was in the main entrance.
Yeah.
So if you know the restaurant and when you go in, there's a big staircase and there's a library and things like that. So I think that was one of the things, I'm not 100% sure of, but it was something over the main entrance.
Yeah.
So that's the main entrance. The stairway is very much like a hot spot for a lot of the spirits and
The
things like that.
paranormal investigators.
Yeah. There's a boy. Did you hear about the boy that fell down the
No,
stairs? There's a
no.
young boy
Oh.
visiting the home one day. I don't know if it happened while it was a restaurant or before that, but it was a young boy visiting the home one day, fell down the stairs, died a short time later because of his injuries.
Aw.
Yeah, no shortage of ghost stories from the Keg Mansion.
From that. Wow.
But I was there. I ate there maybe once or twice a number of years ago, and because I had gone into the restaurant knowing what could potentially happen,
Mhm.
I did a little bit of research.
Sound. You brought your sound equipment.
I brought my EVP. Yeah, really, like my little like my spirit box or whatever.
Don't
right?
mind
Like,
me.
yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and do a little EVP session with while you're eating your steak,
Yeah.
right? So, but there's somebody, I was doing a little bit of research before just because I wanted to get the full experience, right?
Yeah.
Dinner and a show sort of thing.
Yes.
And there was there's a book. There's a ghost book. There was a ghost. It was just a binder. They said there's we keep track of these things and some people want to see it. And it's, of course, people do like to have tours, even if they're not eating at the restaurant. So because of the history of the house, people will go in and they want to have tours.
It's like over 150 years old.
155 this year, right? It's
Yeah.
as old as Canada.
Yeah.
So there's a book, and that you can just ask for the ghost book, and it's just a little binder, and it has notes and things like that people saw. A lot of it is just sort of like, I felt a weird chill or something like that. But then there's others that say, I definitely heard and saw children in the restaurant. And I don't know if this is for sure, but I guess back in certain, I don't know if it was just had to do with Ontario liquor laws or whatever it was, but I think no kids were allowed in the bar section after 9 o'clock or something.
Mm.
And people mentioned that they saw a little child or a couple of children running around in the bar, and they thought it was odd because it was after 9 and kids aren't really allowed in there. So that was kind of one of the things that happened. But anyway, there's a little ghost book, and so I saw it. A lot of these things sort of are like, okay, well, that's just you could be sitting under an air vent, or you could be like, you can debunk a lot of those things.
Yeah.
But there's some that are a little harder to explain, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that is so cool. I never knew it, like, until you told me today. Like, I never knew that there is a ghost book.
yeah. And
They don't advertise it or anything.
I don't think they do. I think people just kind of have to, if you sort of have to know.
You have
can
to
go
be
and
an
say.
insider.
Now, I think if you go there, I wouldn't know for sure. I think most of the stuff is online. I don't think it's like as much, might be more digital than it is now.
They'll bring you
There
an
could be.
iPad now.
Maybe they do. Yeah, maybe they do. So here's a couple of stories. Okay, so just bear with me. So there's a couple of stories that are either documented in the book or documented online and different things. So somebody named Melanie E, let's say, was dining with her husband. She said that she encountered 2 different spirits, and as she was dining, she felt cold wisps on her arm. And they just gave her goosebumps, and she felt light touches move onto her fingers and eventually the back of her neck. And I'm feeling it too because I'm talking about it. I'm scratching my head.
Oh my gosh. It's like psychosomatic or
Isn't it?
something. Yeah.
It's like you read about it and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling that now too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Or someone's like, my head's itchy, and you're like, oh,
when you sneeze, when somebody makes you yawn, right? Like you yawn and
yes,
somebody
the
else makes you yawn.
Mhm.
There was then a flash across her mind. So this is the same person. So this is the flash across her mind of a woman. And she describes the woman as young, blonde, with a wide face and blue eyes.
Was it me? I'm a ghost
So I'm
now.
looking, I'm like,
I came to haunt her.
yeah. Like, so that maybe this is Maybe you
I
should
would
show up and just like
Oh,
wear one of those
yeah.
Victorian dresses and just show up and just walk back and forth along the
Yeah.
stairs.
I think there's like a conspiracy theory, like people who say that there's like aliens. Because somebody like came up to me and they're like, "You look like this race of alien." I'm like, okay.
What does
That
that
like
even
has like
mean?
white hair and like blue eyes. I don't know. People need to get off the internet.
Yeah, I think there should be. I think your web browsers should have a breathalyzer built into them as well too, right? Like you. So she wrote this all in it. It was a light color, so blonde, light colored skirt standing behind her, and she says she wrote that in a testimonial and continued to feel the woman's presence through dinner, and then there was another encounter. Laura D. Claimed to have seen ghosts of children at the restaurant. So this goes back to what I was saying about young children, and I don't know how true that is today, but apparently they can suggest, or they suggested that young children weren't allowed in the restaurant at night. It's a family restaurant now. I don't know that that's 100% true, but she was, saw a boy with dark hair sitting on one of the staircases and walked past him, and she looked back and he was gone. So another visit, she and a friend were at the bar, second floor bar, and they heard the creepy sound of children's feet pitter-pattering down the stairs. And when they looked to see who it was, there was no one there.
Dun, dun, dun.
Another guest reported she was alone in the washroom. So this is another kind of goes back to what you were talking about, where somebody was alone in the washroom. A lady in a dark, old-fashioned dress just kind of looked at her.
Whoa.
And the guest even said hello to the lady. And then asked, I guess, the host. And the host said there was no one in the restaurant who fit that description. That to me is a
so
little weird. That's a little weird to me, though.
That
but
gave me goosebumps.
I don't know how much of it, okay, so think about this, though. If you go into the washroom at a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
If you kind of get over your neuroses about using public washrooms, you actually go.
If I get over it, yeah.
If you do, and you go in to use a public washroom at a restaurant, even a nice restaurant like this, and you see somebody there in the restaurant, in the washroom, you say hello to that person, you wouldn't think anything of it. Why would you go to the host and say, by the way, I saw somebody in the washroom. Is there anybody who fits this description? What a stupid thing to do. Like, I wouldn't go to the host if I wasn't thinking.
Maybe that's not the way it happened. Maybe she just like casually mentioned, "Oh, there's this girl like wearing weird clothes."
That's what I think is a lot more likely than
Maybe.
going and saying,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, host, was there another woman? Like, nobody fits that description." Like, that just sounds so contrived.
That
like,
sounds
doesn't
like a
make any
contrived
sense.
story, but maybe it's like not exactly fitting.
That's that's what I'm thinking. It's maybe something was a little bit different.
Yeah, that would be so creepy to me. I don't think I'd ever be the same if like I like saw a ghost and then I talked to it and then like went about my day
Yeah,
and then realized later that there was nobody there.
yeah.
I'd be like, whoa.
So there was another story about Jen. So I read a little bit about Jen, the former manager, the former GM of the restaurant, and
Okay.
there was a staircase. So if you look at it, the staircase, it has the spindles, a banister, and spindles up and down the staircase, little wooden spindles. She mentioned that one of them was loose and fell, and so it fell, didn't hurt anybody, just fell from the second floor or whatever. So they fixed it, and then I think she said a year to the date, the same spindle fell again. And it was weird that they had fixed it. They thought it was firmly in place or whatever it was. And so it was quite literally a year to the date. The same thing happened. It fell again.
Whoa.
Same spindle again. Didn't hurt anybody, but it just sort of fell. And they thought, what are the odds that a spindle that we already fixed and reinforced fell again right out of the banister, right off the stairs
Yeah.
on the same day 1 year later? It just doesn't make any sense. You can't possibly make that up. So that's kind of a strange thing. They recorded it in the logbook, and so they, everything was okay. But
the ghost book.
their own, I guess it must have been. It was creepy. Just seems like a very creepy thing. But I mean, they had a visit from somebody in Los Angeles, or from Los Angeles, who studies the supernatural. Wanted to take a tour. She said she felt a presence in the library. It doesn't like the presence. Supposedly didn't like the fact that a woman was in the library, maybe something like that. That's the story. But
How do you what?
yeah, I don't know.
I felt a presence and it didn't like me because I was a woman.
Or because you were
Fuck
in
the patriarchy.
because it was because maybe it's not because you're a woman, but maybe because you were in its home. Like, that could be something too. But I mean, how dare a woman go into the library? Like, it seems
That's
so
strange. But she didn't even say that she heard the voice. She was just like, I felt it.
I felt something.
I felt it.
I felt
And it
unwanted
didn't-
is kind of what it was.
Yeah, it didn't like me because I was a woman.
Because I was a woman. Yeah.
And I
don't know.
had blonde hair. Okay.
But Lily and Massey, I mean, this is the distraught maid. So going back to the maid who hanged herself, she's said to roam the building,
Yeah.
just kind of taking care of things because she's the maid. So that's what she does. So apparently that's her MO. That's what she does. She just goes and roams the building.
At least she's not like one of those spirits that are like out to get you. Like she's not like a bad spirit or anything.
Yeah.
So
It's just somebody
there's
who's
that. They're
there's
not
that too.
malicious.
Most of the spirits that you hear about are just people who are in the building and still maybe just are sort of stuck in this limbo and sort of think that it's their home.
Yeah,
And they just can't
maybe.
be kind of flushed out by anything. So,
Yeah.
but they're not
Yeah.
there to get you.
Yeah.
Demons are the ones that, that you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Like in Villisca, like we talked about Villisca,
Yeah.
Iowa. So there was something that was a demon. And so it was out to get this guy that was investigating. He can't scratches or stab marks or whatever the stupid story was. It was a
Yeah.
great story. I'm just trying to remember.
It
But
was a great. Do you have like a favorite ghost story?
I don't. The ones that I like are, I don't know if I have a favorite specifically, but the stories that I like are the ones that are so, like, I want to say, oh man, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like almost like there's like a juxtaposition. So
Oh.
it's not a haunted house, but supposedly it's a ghost that appears at some place that's happy and fun, like Disney World. So
Oh,
those are the kinds of
that's
stories that
cool.
I like, when it's like the ghost of Walt Disney is looking over the people at Walt Disney World or something from
Whoa.
the apartment
Is
above
that a
the
real
fire
thing?
hall. Apparently, so
Oh.
I don't know if that's I think so. I may be getting my stories mixed up, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I've heard about Walt Disney himself at Disneyland in California, Disney World in Florida. I'm not sure which one, but he had an apartment. He himself had an apartment on the premises
Yeah,
to just kind of
as
be
you would.
close, to sort of be, to be there and to be near things. And he had he lived there whenever he was in town, I guess. And so after he died, people thought they saw the ghost of Walt Disney or something. So people come from all over the place and they see it. There's a candle burning or whatever stupid thing. I don't know. People have made up all sorts of stupid stories about this guy, but those are the kinds of ones those are the
That you
stories that I like.
enjoy?
The ones that are not, that you would never believe, like you would never think. Because I mean, a place, an old haunted house where there were murders and things like that, of course, there's going to be ghosts, and you're
Of
just.
course.
But I mean, something like the happiest place on earth. Like you don't ever think there's
Wow.
going to be a haunting at the
Yeah.
happiest place on earth.
Yeah, that's
So-
interesting.
Those are the kinds of things that I like.
I like the most fucked up ones. Like those are I know it's like it's so twisted, but it just I don't know why. I think it's just like human nature or something. Like we just get a
Yeah.
kick out of
Yeah.
stuff like that. But like the Villisca one, I think that's one of my favorite ones for sure.
And it was
Not
just,
my favorite. It's so sad to say like favorite, but it's confusing.
it is.
Like why and who, like what sort of person does that? I think it just like it has more questions than really answers.
answers?
Yeah.
It's still not solved, right? Like
No.
there's nothing.
No.
Yeah, and they've just never really kind of gotten back to that story. So
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah. That was
I would go. So what do you think? Like, what do you think about this place? Like, do
Would
you
you
think this
go?
is? Yeah. Would you
You've
spend a
already
night?
been.
I've
We've
already
both
been.
been
But I mean,
there.
would you spend a night? Like, would you go and you'd spend a night there? If there was an opportunity to investigate, like, would you go and you like? I'm no paranormal investigator. Like, I'm not that kind of.
Yet you don't have your equipment yet.
I don't have my exactly. I didn't bring my whatever the thing is with me, but
I'm like a super skeptic when it comes to this kind of stuff. Even though I'm really interested in it, I'm still really skeptical. But I would not tempt fate. Like
Okay.
I would not stay in a house like that. No.
I kind of feel like I would. I mean, at the very least, there's a fridge full of food, and like it's a
Yeah.
restaurant, so you can whip up a quick meal if you need to. But
There's perks to it.
I
I
think
say
so.
that. I love how I'm like, I don't want to tempt fate, but if there's a murder mansion,
Murder mansion, right?
call me up.
So I love hotels. I like old creepy hotels.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I've been watching Hotel Paranormal, which is just a show that's, it's narrated by Dan Aykroyd, which is kind of maybe why I like it, because he was Ghostbuster and all that stuff. And he's a
You're
Canadian
the
guy.
Ghostbuster.
So I kind of was like, maybe Dan Aykroyd, so it ended up being kind of good. It was a good show. And I'm sure it's on. I don't have the channel anymore where I live now, but I like it. And I like hearing about hotels, because the thing about a hotel is that you can just go in there. Like anybody can go in and anybody can stay there, right? It's
Yeah.
it's an open building where you can just kind of go in. And if you've heard about things with the Royal York, I can't think of other ones, but I'm sure
One
there's
King
other.
West.
One King West, which is part hotel, part condos. But
Yeah.
there's a lot, and it's an old building. It's an old bank building. So I'm sure there's a lot of history in that
There was
building.
like a hockey player who died.
Wade Belak.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I stayed in one of the rooms. At least I requested it.
Did you?
Yeah, when I was like 20, it had
Well-
just happened too. They probably thought it was so nuts.
Well, he was living there. He was living there while
Yeah.
he was in town. He's from out west somewhere.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember if I got the room, but I remember I requested it.
he's a great hockey player. So this is another, good thing we kind of mentioned that little trigger warning at the beginning of the
Yeah,
episode here
there's
too, because that
lots
was
of death.
yeah, there was a lot. So I mean, he had some issues that a lot of people didn't necessarily know about. He wasn't very public about his mental illness,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a sad thing. But that was fairly recent when it comes to, I guess, when you think about it. I mean, in comparison to what we've been talking about, that's a fairly recent incident.
Yeah.
But that's One King West. I'll have to look up that a little bit more too. I know some people
That
who
one's
knew
a really
him.
cool building.
I know some people who knew him quite well. I'd have to reach out to them for
Oh,
some
really?
information. Yeah, but
Aw.
he I met him. I met him one time a
You
long
met
time
him?
ago. Yeah, it was a long
Oh.
time ago. But I mean, there's like, I forget where I was going with that. But there's like a lot of buildings, so hotels specifically, because it's so easy to get in and out of them. You can, it's not like a house where you can't just walk in the front door.
Yeah.
You can't. You have
You
to
have
kind
more
of.
access?
You have more access to the place because you can
Yeah.
go and you can stay in one of the rooms. And sometimes there's rooms that are, sealed off because people have reported things that have been completely unexplainable. Or it's just, there's one thing about the room. Like there's a couple of hotels where I can't think of any specific examples, but I mean, let's say there's a hotel that has like a heating or an air conditioning unit in one of the rooms.
Mhm.
And that just happens to be one of the rooms where something happened and there's a little story there behind that. And they just can't get that. They can't get that air conditioner to work, or they can't get that heat to work. So the room's always cold, right? The hotel
Oh.
people don't know that's, maybe they know, but I mean, maybe that has something to do with the fact that like there's I don't know, I'm just kind of going on here, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, sometimes it's so easy to
it's
go
so-
into a,
Yeah, it's so funny, like what grabs their attention.
Yeah.
Like what we find interesting.
Mhm.
Like there's like I love like murder mansions. You love like haunted hotels, but it's,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but like sometimes just like there's like a topic that just like
Yeah.
grabs you for some reason.
Yeah, I kind of like, and it kind of goes back to the business that you and I are in, right? I mean, when we talk about real estate, we talk about the houses that are like, we don't necessarily know. Sometimes we know the story behind the house, and sometimes we don't know the story behind the house.
Yeah.
And sometimes we know that something potentially bad happened in that house, and sometimes it's we don't know what we're always getting ourselves into. So somebody like me or somebody like you can go into that house, whereas most people just will never ever know that story. So we kind of hear a little bit more about what happened, and
We get all the juicy details.
sometimes we do. Sometimes
Yeah.
we get the details, and sometimes we don't get the details, and sometimes we don't want to know the details. But I mean, like I said to you before one time when we were talking about a similar topic, I like the idea of like I would go running into that house if somebody had a creepy vibe. If I walked in with a client and they were a buyer, I'd walk in and say, this house has a creepy vibe. Let's go see what it's all about. Whereas, I got my flashlight and they're like, nope, I'm going to stay outside. I can't handle this.
I'm not into the creepy vibes.
Would you buy a
Mhm.
house next to a cemetery? Or in front of a cemetery, behind a cemetery, near a
If I
cemetery?
got it for like a good enough price, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I guess it depends on, I would have no problem
Yeah.
with that. But I'm also kind of like, your neighbors are quiet, right? I mean, there's on one hand, you're like, you've got quiet neighbors. On the other
Quiet
hand,
neighbors.
there's something there. I mean, there's certain people of certain cultures that will go nowhere near
Nowhere
cemeteries.
near. No.
And, in an
I
older,
think just even regular people, like without like the culture or anything, like just
there's some people that maybe have nothing to do with the culture. You're right.
or religion or anything.
Yeah.
They're just like, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that cemetery. I'm not going to live near
Yeah.
a cemetery. I'm not going to buy a house near a cemetery. Old family friends of ours from way back in the day, they in Whitby actually backed onto a cemetery, and it was just like they loved that house. They loved the property. They didn't care. There were a bunch of dead people in their backyard. They said nobody's ever going to build here.
Dead people in the backyard.
backyard.
I love that.
It was just nobody's ever going to build here, right?
Nope.
This cemetery is going to be here forever, and so we're never going to have people behind us. It's just a nice field. It's going to look pretty or whatever. I don't know. There's not going to be any noise. Like they just absolutely loved it. But then there's going to be
Oh,
people that
great.
don't. And I mean, where I live now, it's a very old it's an old area. and there's a lot of smaller cemeteries or a few smaller cemeteries. You can't like there's houses everywhere. You can't just say like, you can't show the fact that there's a cemetery there or something like that just doesn't really matter to me anymore. I don't really even consider it because, it's like if a house comes up for sale, you got to jump on it. This is just the market that we're in right now, right? When you've got a little bit more choice, I think it's might be a little bit different, but now it's not even a factor.
Yeah. Does it have a roof and some walls and some land?
And like a door that has a lock on it?
Yeah, we're good to go. We can sell it.
Totally fine. That's right. Yeah.
But that was a really great topic to explore with you, John. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I love this. Now I'm hungry and now I want a steak.
I know the entire time, like my stomach was just like grumbling and I'm like, oh.
What's your go-to thing? Do you have like a specific kind of meal that you get every single time? Like, I don't know how often you go to I don't go to the Keg that often, but when I do, I know what I want.
You have to get a steak when you go to the Keg.
Yeah, I know what I want.
You can't get anything else.
No, you got to.
No.
I've had their prime rib. It's okay. It's not bad. It's always, my go-to meal, and this is like, again, always basically the same thing. So if I'm by myself, I've only been to the Keg maybe once or twice by myself.
You went by yourself to the Keg?
I went to the Keg in Niagara Falls by myself.
I guess people do that. People do that.
Yeah, I was just hanging out there by myself. I went away for a couple of nights and met up with a friend one day. But the night before that, I was by myself and just had dinner at the Keg. So I got an old fashioned, the Keg old fashioned or whatever their signature old fashioned is. Yeah.
Why does everybody wants to drink old fashions now?
I don't know.
Why is it fashionable?
It's whiskey. It's like bourbon. It's sweet. Usually there's like an old fashioned would be bourbon. Usually bitters.
My stomach is
cherry. Maybe maybe an orange peel and and a big ice cube and sometimes sugar, something to sweeten it. Right.
The manliest drink.
It's in a cool glass with a big ice cube. Usually you get one of those gigantic ice cubes.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like, okay, I want an old fashioned.
I want the ice cube.
I think it's an old fashioned, especially this old fashioned they've got there with, I think is a 2-ounce drink. So it's a little bit more than just but I mean, I'll have the old fashioned. You get the escargot, right? Which is snails if you don't, I mean, people are turned off by snails.
If you're French.
Snails. Yeah, exactly. Pardon my French. But escargot is a great appetite. I don't know, whatever the sauce that they have is incredible. Not a big mushroom guy, so sometimes you get it without the mushroom caps, or even just like a calamari. And then you get the a wedge salad. You got the wedge blue cheese dressing, bacon.
Yes,
it's a wedge of a thing.
Lettuce,
so one of those like an iceberg, right? It's an iceberg. It's like a quarter of a head of iceberg lettuce with the bacon and the blue cheese.
Yeah.
And then you got to get a steak. So you get the filet mignon, or you get what's the other one?
Has to be medium rare. Like, it has to be bloody.
That's how you do it. That's medium rare, nothing more than that.
Like, if you eat your steak without blood in it, like, you are a sociopath for sure. Or ketchup. If you put ketchup on your steak,
they'll kick you out. Yeah, you don't even want to do that. Even
you're
sauce.
Banned.
Keg. The funny thing is, Keg has its own brand of steak sauce. But if you get steak sauce, if you order a steak at the Keg with steak sauce, you may as well just like,
I don't know. Steak sauce? Like butter?
Stupid. Steak sauce is like a barbecue sauce.
Ew.
Butter, yes. You could do like a...
Butter is okay on steak and like salt and pepper.
That's all.
Or steak spice.
That's all you do.
That's
it's just,
all.
when I make
Nothing
it, it's just
else.
salt and pepper.
Yeah.
And then for dessert, you got to have the Billy Miner pie.
I don't know.
Cake. It's like an ice cream cake. They give it to you free on your birthday. If you tell them it's your birthday, you'll get a free piece of Billy Miner.
Every day.
Yeah, you get a free piece of Billy Miner.
Every day.
This has just turned into an hour-long commercial for the Keg Steakhouse
I know,
and
right?
Bar.
Okay.
We better get something for free out of this.
I'm so glad that they kept the building, though. I know that it's a heritage building now, but
since 1975. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think before it got its designation, they purchased it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So good for them for keeping, historical properties.
Yeah.
Here, otherwise they just get bulldozed.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, John.
Thank you.
So great to have you here.
We'll talk about. We'll talk again.
Yeah,
we'll do something. We'll do this. Yeah, we'll do this again sometime.
All right. Well done. Yay.